Ali. Today I will speak about an important issue. It's a mix of science and medicine. And as I mentioned before, the human body is the human body. I'm speaking about the body because, as I mentioned before, the human kind is formed, or the human self is formed of body, mind, and the most important, the soul, which is the energy or the light or the power moving the mind and the body. The soul. This is the most important part of the self. اسمه الجسد والmind, and the mind drifts in between, and the body, the mind, العقل, which is the most important tool and gift given to humans to control their life here, the mind. So it is soul, mind, and the body, or as we say in Greek, the soma or the physique. The body is formed of the matter, and as I mentioned before, the body is the image, هي الصورة الخارجية. لا مادة. دي قاعدة مهمة جدا في الفيزيكس وفي الساينس، لا صورة. وفي الفلسفي، في الفلسفي of science، في فلسفة العلوم، and there is no matter without image, and there is no image without matter. فكل شيء مادي أو مكون من مادة له صورة. This image for the human being is the body. يعني the body is just an image. هي مجرد صورة أو شكل لهذا الشيء اللي بيحتوي، أو هذا الوعاء اللي بيحتوي على، أو هذا الرداء اللي موجود في الروح. Because you are a soul, you have a body. You are a soul, you have a body. أنت روح، عندك soul and you have a body. Not a body and you have a soul. No. صلح بقى ايه معلوماتك. أنت روح في صورة وفي شكل جسد، عشان الروح دي بتتمثل في هذا الشكل في هذا العالم الدنيوي. لازم يكون موجودة لها شكل. هذا الشكل هو الجسم بتاعك اللي انت your body which you have during this earthy world or earthy life. When you go to the other life, the hereafter، لما تروح لك شكل آخر، بتتحط في شكل آخر، لها قانون آخر اللي هو قانون الآخرة، different from قانون الدنيا بالشكل الدنيوي. ولذلك الروح تبقى ولكن في شكل آخر، بينما الجسم البشري بيفنى، يبلى. الروح تصعد إلى أعلى والجسم بيهبط إلى أسفل لأنه مادي. I will go back to the talking about the physique or the body. The physique or the body or the soma, it is formed of matter. والمادة, and as I mentioned before, the matter is any substance which has a volume, a mass, and a density according to the definition of matter in physics في الفيزياء. فبنقول إن what is the matter؟ ما هي تعريف المادة في علم الفيزياء؟ هو أي شيء له حجم that is space occupying، يعني يشغل حيز من الفراغ. بما أن له حجم، إذن يجب أن يشغل حيز من الفراغ. هذه الصورة وهذا الشكل، هذه الإيمج اللي هي زي ما قلت بشكل المادة أو المادة. قلت لا مادة بلا صورة ولا صورة بلا مادة. تذكر هذه القاعدة، لا مادة بلا صورة ولا صورة بلا مادة. يعني ماتر يبقى فيه image يبقى فيه ماتر. This is applied to all creatures which have images. في الأنيمال كينجدم، في مملكة الحيوان، في علم الزوولوجي أو علم الحيوان. and items applied to plants، النباتات، في علم البوتاني اللي هو علم النبات. وفي ال other which are geology زي الجبال والبحار والأنهار، وكل دي أشياء مخلوقات لها تتكون من مادة regardless of this type of matter, because the matter has 3 types as we all know. أن المادة لها 3 حالات أو حالات states of matter or the types of matter which are the solid, the liquid and the gas، اللي هي الحالة الصلبة والحالة السائلة والحالة الغازية. These are the basic characters. There are two additional new types or new states of matter, but the basic three states of matter are solid, liquid, and gas. Let us focus on the three states of matter اللي هي solid والliquid والgas. As I mentioned, there is no matter without image and there is no image without matter. وقلت إن المادة هو any substance which has a volume that is space occupying، بما إن لها حجم يبقى هي space occupying volume V، بنرمز له بالحرف V volume that is space occupying and has a density، لها كثافة بالعربي in Arabic and has a mass، لها كتلة. This is the definition of a matter in physics. And زي ما احنا عارفين the mass has rules and has laws, and the most common is the law of conservation of mass or conservation of matter، اللي هو قانون حفظ الكتلة أو حفظ المادة أو حفظ الطاقة، اللي هو اسمه قانون لافوازييه which is common in physics and chemistry. هو قانون بيتأرجح بين علم الفيزياء وعلم الكيمياء between chemistry and physics. It is called the Lavoisier law، اللي هو علم حفظ المادة ولا تخلق من شيء، من لا شيء. يعني ايه؟ يعني لا تفنى وتخلق من عدم. يعني مجموع الاحجام اللي داخله في معادله معينه تساوي مجموع الاحجام الناتج عن او الخارج من هذه المعادله، سواء كان ولذلك بنسميه قانون حفظ الطاقه او حفظ الكتله conservation of او حفظ الماده conservation of matter أو conservation of mass أو conservation of energy، you call it whatever، هي نفسها اللي هو قانون لافوازييه. And this is one of the most important laws in chemistry and physics. وهو زي ما قلت بيدرس في الاثنين، هو بيجي في علم الفيزياء وكذلك في علم الكيمياء. So Lavoisier law is very important in physics and in chemistry to be applied to the matter للمادة، لأن المادة لها mass كتلة. And the most important law of mass is Lavoisier law conservation of mass or conservation of matter، لأن المادة لأن الكتلة بتمثل المادة والمادة لها كتلة، وبالتالي قانون حفظ الكتلة أو حفظ المادة هو أهم قانون، هو لافوازييه لو. المادة بحالاتها الثلاث this matter has chemical and physical characters، يعني لها خواص فيزيائية وخواص كيميائية. And among the rules is the relation between pressure, volume and temperature. For example, the relation between pressure, volume and temperature of is matter، اللي هو العلاقة بين الضغط والحجم ودرجة الحرارة in physics. And also the laws of gases زي قانون تشارلز وقانون جاي لوساك. دي من القوانين اللي هي بتبقى applied على الحالة الغاز أو الحالة الغازية للمادة. المادة بحالتها الثلاث اللي أنا قلت عليها اللي هي the matter with all its states and types whether the solid or the liquid or the gas. ثلاث حالات للمادة المعروفين في علم الفيزياء هم موجودين في الجسم البشري. They are all present inside the human body. All the laws of physics and the chemistry which are applied to matter are considered in the human body. Are considered in the human body because the human body is matter. وزي ما قلت matter, and as I mentioned the matter has three states and the three states are in the matter of the human body. So inside the human physique or the human soma we have solid structures or solid states represented by the organs, whether the solid organs or the hollow organs، سواء كانت الأورجنز اللي هي الصلبة أو الأورجنز الهولو زي الفيسرا. الsolid organs like the liver, like the kidney, like the brain, these are solid organs, spleen, etc. and the lungs, etc. and the heart, etc. So these are solid organs. And the hollow organs like the gastrointestinal tract or the gut and the bronchi, these are hollow, and the esophagus, the colon and the intestine, so these are hollow structures. هذه الhollow structures and the solid structures subject to and they are following the physical rules or the physical characters of the solid state of matter. لأن هذه الأورجنز, because these organs, whether solid organs or hollow organs, these are solid state of matter. So they are affected and they are regulated by the laws of physics. Also, the liquid state, we have the most important liquid, because the human body has liquids inside, and the human body is mostly liquid, which is water, because as we all know, water composes the most of the human matter. لأن الجسم المادي البشري هو معظمه مية، سواء كانت this water is intracellular اللي هي بتكون 70% من المية اللي موجودة في الجسم. الجسم فيه حوالي 75% منه مية. And 70% of this water inside the human body is inside the cells. We call it intracellular water. And 30% inside the cells, we intracellular water. And this extracellular water is formed of intravascular water, which is the plasma of the blood, and extravascular اللي هي موجودة في interstitial space. نسميه interstitial fluid or interstitial and the lymph. فيبقى إذن في عندنا this is the water. But this water is in different forms, whether the intracellular water or the extracellular water. And the most important extracellular part of water is the blood inside or the plasma part of the blood inside the blood vessels, intravascular. So the blood is the most important, and the water. And the blood is formed of, as we all know, from plasma and cellular components. We call it the cellular components of the blood, which are the red blood corpuscles, the white blood cells, and the platelets. And the plasma, of course, is the fluid in which these cells swim. So this is the blood, the most important liquid. So the liquid state of matter is represented by blood inside the human body. And then comes number 3, at the third state of matter, الحالة الغازية, and this is represented by air present inside the alveoli of the lungs. Inside the alveoli of the lungs, so there is air inside the body, because the human body breathes air for oxygen. Because as we all know, the human body lives on 2 important nutrients which are important for the metabolism and the energy: oxygen and glucose. We are both carried by the blood. So the oxygen, and this oxygen comes from the air, and this air is inside the small sacs of the lungs, which we call it the respiratory acinus, or the respiratory acinus anatomically, or the alveoli. So this is very important, the gaseous state inside the human body, the air. And the air, either oxygen or carbon dioxide, as we all know. We inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide because it's a waste. So air, gas inside the human body. So now we can understand that the human body, which is matter, contains the 3 states of matter: the solid state, organs, solid and organs, anatomy, and the liquid and the gas. So the physics is anatomy, as we see. The anatomy with all its physical components or physical states: the solid, the liquid or fluid, and the third is the gas, the gaseous state or the gaseous state of matter. So anatomy is matter، وذاك التشريح هو مادة. كل الاناتوميكال structures inside the human body من مادة صلبة أو سائلة أو غازية. So these are the how is physics related to anatomy. And not only this, the physics is related to physiology. For example, it's very important to understand that the Laplace law represents the relation between the wall tension and the internal pressure, that is pressure inside, and the radius of hollow structures, which are either spherical or cylindrical structures or tubular structures. So in the spherical or cylindrical structures, inside the body, like in the alveoli, or in tubular structures, like in the blood vessels, or in the heart. We have Laplace considered in these organs in physiology. Why? Because the Laplace law has القانون اسمه قانون Laplace. It represents the relation between, again, I repeat again, the relation between the wall tension or the wall stress of a hollow structure or a hollow a part or a hollow organ, especially in spherical organs and tubular organs or tubular structures inside the human body. The wall tension, sometimes we call it the wall stress. It represents the relation between the wall stress, the radius of the structure, and the pressure inside the structure. So the relation between the wall tension, pressure, and radius, the Laplace law. And as we say, it is tension, or T, equals a pressure multiplied by the radius over the W, which is the thickness of the structure. Again, by simples, it is T, which is tension, wall tension. Wall tension of what? Tension of the wall of the structure. As I mentioned, the cylindrical or spherical structures and the tubular structures inside the. This the T equals P multiplied by R. P is pressure inside the structure. R is the radius of the structure, نصف القطر, divided by the thickness of the structure, W. This is the equation of what we call Laplace law. That's why the wall tension or wall stress is directly proportional to the radius and directly proportional inside the structure. And it is very important in the regulation of physiology in these spherical structures or tubular hollow structures inside the body. In the heart, it's very important. That's why Laplace law is important to understand many of diseases in cardiology, and many of the diseases in pulmonology, and many of diseases in blood vessels. So to understand what happens, for example, in dilated cardiomyopathy, you have to understand this is a disease in the heart, in which there is dilatation of the cardiac chambers, ventricles, and the atria. And this is a type of cardiomyopathy. We all know that cardiomyopathy is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and dilated cardiomyopathy, and restrictive cardiomyopathy. The dilated cardiomyopathy, also we find that there is dilatation, that there is affection of the radius of the cardiac chamber, and this will affect the wall stress or the wall tension of the cardiac ventricle, and can explain many of the phenomena happening in dilated cardiomyopathy, and also in patients with hypertension, with hypertensive cardiomyopathy, which is a type of. This is the importance of Laplace law in physiology and in understand it in order to know explanation of many of the pathophysiological changes which happen in many diseases in the heart, in the alveoli of the lungs, or in the blood vessels, like in esophageal. Why the varices rupture? Why other varices, esophageal varices, which of course is a complication of portal hypertension, doesn't rupture? So in order to understand these clinical phenomena and pathophysiological changes, you have to understand the physics. And the most important here physical law is Laplace law. It's important to know the Laplace law in order to understand the behavioral biological behavior and the pathobiology of some diseases in the lungs, in the heart, and in the blood vessels, as I mentioned. In cardiac disease, in lung disease involving the alveoli, and in blood vessels, like in patients with esophageal varices, which is commonly complicated by rupture and gastrointestinal bleeding, as we know, whether hematemesis or lower gastrointestinal bleeding, hematochezia, or other types of gastrointestinal bleeding. This is very important to consider in patients and in clinical medicine, so you have to understand the Laplace law. Now it's very clear that the laws of physics are important to understand in order to be able to understand the clinical medicine and the pathobiology or pathophysiology in physics, chemistry, and on one hand, and on the other hand, the clinical medicine and the pathobiology of disease. So don't forget physics and chemistry, don't forget science and its relation with medicine. Professor Dr. Tarek Ali.